Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to today's tropical weather outlook for June 15th, 2026. In today's tropical weather outlook, things are starting to get more serious here, especially in the northwestern Gulf. We now have a moderate chance of development as our disturbance is going to move potentially offshore now. And we might get a quick tropical development here in the northwestern Gulf, which could result in our first named storm of the 2026 hurricane season. And with it are coming major impacts. Yes, we are looking at a potentially quick spin up here in the northwestern Gulf, but it is looking increasingly likely that a big time flood threat is beginning to set up for the Gulf Coast, especially across Texas and Louisiana, even stretching into Mississippi and Alabama. We're going to go over all of that in today's video, so let's get started. First off with the National Hurricane Center, and we officially have it as of 2 p.m., a moderate chance of development now, and they're actually pointing to quite a number of things as to why they have a moderate chance here, and I'm going to read the entire bulletin in a little bit because it is pretty interesting, and it does, highlight the increasing threat of impacts here for the northern Gulf Coast. And by the wording, you will definitely tell that things are starting to get serious. But for now, development chances in the next 48 hours, medium at 40%, and they are slightly higher in the next 7 days at 50%. And here's what the National Hurricane Center says as of 2 p.m. A trough of low pressure located over northeastern Mexico is producing a large area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Development is not expected during the next day or so while the trough remains inland. However, the system could reemerge over the northwestern Gulf of America late Tuesday or Wednesday, and environmental conditions there are marginally conducive for the formation of a short-lived tropical storm on Wednesday into Thursday. So they are saying that a tropical storm is becoming increasingly likely. Regardless of tropical cyclone formation, interests across the southern and eastern Texas and portions of Louisiana and Mississippi should prepare for periods of intense rainfall over the next several days, which could produce widespread, life-threatening flash, urban, and river flooding. Gusty winds and coastal flooding are also possible along portions of the northwestern Gulf Coast. And this is probably one of the biggest pieces of information for me. Tropical storm watches or warnings could be required on Tuesday. And that potentially implies that we might have a potential tropical cyclone tomorrow if the models continue to uptrend here with potential development in the Gulf. And the chances have already been raised, and it's looking increasingly likely here that things are starting to get serious for the northwestern Gulf. Here's a look at the satellite image right now. And you can see there's not much going on, but there are already thunderstorms firing here along the Texas coastline. The circulation is still a little bit further inland right now, and once again, it is definitely a broad area of low pressure. And you can actually see that here by the 850 millibar vorticity. You can clearly see, though, where the energy that we are watching for is right now. It is over, once again, northeastern Mexico here, and it is definitely broad and disorganized. But because we have a frontal boundary here that is setting up across the southeast and that's continuing to move eastward, it is looking increasingly likely that this area of vorticity here will make its way eastward and potentially emerge off of the northwestern Gulf Coast. But we might even see some help from land interaction as well. Some development might already occur while this is on land, trying to move off land here, as some of the models are hinting at. This might have the influence and help of the brown ocean effect, which I talked about, I believe, yesterday, and that was what the Euro was showing with development here, and the amplification of a tropical cyclone over the southeast, which was obviously bogus, but there will be a little bit of a brown ocean effect situation as this disturbance moves off the coast of Texas, and it is very well possible that this could develop almost immediately, emerging off of the Gulf Coast if this is able to do so. And as I mentioned before, one thing that will definitely aid in development is the circular shape here of the northwestern Gulf Coast. And you may not believe it, but yes, the geography of land relative to the ocean here definitely helps in terms of being able to close off a circulation, especially on very quick and short notice. And we've seen that multiple times before in the Gulf. And we've also seen it as well off the southeast coast, and it's especially notorious in the Bay of Campeche, but also in the northwestern Gulf. We've seen instances of this before. One storm that comes to mind, and I'm sure those especially in Texas remember this storm, Tropical Storm Imelda from 2019. That formed literally hours before it made landfall, and then once it got inland, it stalled and produced quite the hefty amounts of rainfall for Texas and Louisiana. And that part of the equation, the rainfall, is increasingly looking like it'll be a huge threat for this storm as well. And we'll talk about the rainfall totals that we are expecting in a little bit. But one thing that will also aid in development too, and something that the Gulf does not struggle with at all, especially once we get to hurricane season, and it looks warm now, but it's going to get even warmer from here on out. But the sea surface temperatures are very warm, especially along the northwestern Gulf Coast here. Temperatures are easily at least 28, 29. Some pockets of shelf water here are even close to 30 degrees Celsius. And in terms of getting quick spin-ups to occur, these temperatures are more than ample and more than enough needed. In fact, 28, 29 is already sustainable enough for major hurricane development, but obviously we are not expecting anywhere close to that with this system here. But what we are expecting is a potentially quick spin-up to happen here once this vorticity area over northeastern Mexico is able to emerge here. But it is all definitely going to come down to whether or not this system actually emerges. And there's still a little bit of uncertainty with the models as to what exactly is going to happen here. For instance, I'll show you the GFS model. And as you can see, the GFS is still, you got to give it though, the GFS is showing some development occurring here off of the northwestern Gulf. And actually, I think this is a little bit too much of a in-close shot. But you can see the vorticity as it moves on off to the north here, already over northeastern Mexico and into southern Texas. There already seems to be a low-level center trying to develop. So that's definitely going to be that brown ocean effect that is going to come into play here and potentially helping close off and consolidate a low-level center already, as it is still over land here over southern Texas. And I will say the land, especially in northeastern Mexico and southern Texas over the Rio Grande, is not very mountainous. It is very flat, and obviously as well, it is very close to the ocean. So the influence of the ocean will definitely help this already to try to develop even before it touches the water. But in terms of whether or not we're going to see this go all the way will definitely matter in terms of if it is actually able to reach the Gulf Coast here. The GFS on the 12Z does not necessarily show that, so maybe this does not fully develop here on the GFS. Regardless, though, the energy does lift northward into eastern Texas and then eventually gets strung out across the southeast along with the rest of this front here. And regardless of whether or not we actually get this to develop, we're still going to see a huge flooding rain threat. The European, on the other hand, definitely shows a much more development, pro-development solution here. Already begins to develop off of southern Texas, and then immediately as this touches the water and moves slightly offshore, this pretty much develops into a tropical storm, probably a weak tropical storm here, but still a storm nonetheless. We have a closed low-level center that develops here and then very quickly moves onshore into Texas by the time we get to late Wednesday into Thursday. And then the remnant energy of that gets strung out across the southeast. And obviously you can see here that the European kind of holds onto it a little bit and probably amplifies it a little bit more than it should. But the energy will still be there, and it's still going to bring a lot of moisture and flooding rain here across the southeast. The Euro ensembles also agree with development. You could see we have quite a few ensemble members here, moving off the coast, even if just barely moving off the coast here of the northwestern Gulf. And interestingly enough, those that do move off the coast, especially ones that, spend a little bit more time offshore, actually strengthen us quite decently. There's one ensemble here that brings us as strong as maybe 50 knots, and we also see, pressure decently low. So it's really going to come down to whether or not this disturbance is able to move offshore enough, because it's looking like once it does, this will very likely almost immediately develop. And the European ensembles, especially today, coincidentally enough, are starting to match the Euro AI ensembles, which have had this system here in the northwestern Gulf for several days now. And I must give my hats to. I must give the European AI ensembles their credit. They, as well as the other ensembles, including the operational ensemble models or the operational AI models, they were showing this development since last week, and just now are the global models beginning to catch on, including the 6Z European ensembles. Still have yet to see when the 12Z comes out, but it's probably going to come out in another hour or so. But it's looking more and more that the European ensembles are agreeing with the AI version. So hats off to them. And of course, if we look at the European AI, operational model, you could see as well, they take this energy offshore, and definitely quite a decent bit of vorticity here, and more than likely that consolidates before it then moves into Texas and Louisiana late Wednesday and into Thursday here. And then, of course, as I said, all of this moisture afterward is going to get strung out across the southeast, and because of that, we're going to have a huge rainfall threat, and it is looking increasingly likely that this rainfall threat will be quite problematic and quite widespread. The Weather Prediction Center rain totals all the way from the southern Texas coast here, stretching into even Alabama, totals of rain expected to be in many areas at least half a foot, and pockets increasingly along Texas and Louisiana here, stretching into Mississippi. We could see rainfall totals potentially up to a foot, and I'd imagine in localized areas we might see even more. And this is over the next 7 days, because this rainfall threat will be somewhat long-lived, and it's already beginning today. This is the day one outlook for flooding, flash flooding by the Weather Prediction Center, and already a moderate risk of flash flooding across Texas, into Louisiana, and into Mississippi. That persists into day two, especially for the Texas coastline, and then day three, especially when, whatever energy here associated with this disturbance moves onshore in eastern Texas and western Louisiana. We have a moderate chance, especially focused in eastern Texas. And I must say, one major city involved in the flood risk here is Houston, and Houston is a quite major city, in fact. And then this extends as well into day four. And even day five, we have a slight risk of flash flooding here. So this is going to be a multi-day event of flooding for the Gulf Coast. And this is significant. This is nothing to play around with, especially since we are going to see pretty decent to large cities here involved with this flooding. And I've been making it my goal, especially over the last year, but especially this year, and especially with this event, I'm really trying to hammer the point home that flooding will be a major issue, because it will likely cause damage to property, and we've seen time and time again before over the last several years as these flooding events have caught people off guard to the point that we've had tragic events that involved in loss of life. So all of that will be at play here. And of course, that's not even factoring the potential storm surge that we might get from whatever system tries to develop here off the northwestern Gulf Coast. If we do indeed get a tropical storm, that's definitely going to bring some storm surge as well, although it'll more than likely be on the very low end. But still, that's going to add to the impact of rain and water, which at the end of the day is the most significant impact when it comes to tropical cyclones here. So we will be keeping an eye on the tropics very closely over the next few days. And if you want to continue to do that here with us on this channel, I'd really appreciate if right about now, if you're finding my channel for the first time especially, please make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you can get videos the moment I upload them. And follow me on Twitter too, at Danilo Evangelista, or X, whatever you want to call it, as I'll be posting tweets very often, especially now that things are starting to get serious here. So lots to watch here in the tropics over the next few days, and I certainly hope that you continue to keep it here as we will go over everything and continue to have updates throughout the next several days. And we might, and if we do indeed get watches and warnings issued, we might be starting to do these updates multiple times a day as things continue to evolve until landfall of whatever system here occurs. So lots coming up, and I hope you guys continue to stay tuned. With that being said, though, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed what you saw today. Again, if you did, I really appreciate if you like, comment, and especially subscribe to the notification. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Sometimes I get ahead of myself, but I think you guys get the point. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will definitely talk to you guys again very soon.